Are we on? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I think we're getting ready to start our annual meeting, so if everybody could work their way into the sanctuary here, that'd be great. Good morning. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order right on time, I think, actually maybe 30 seconds early. But we'll start with opening prayer. It looks like we have quorum today, so I'll pass off the microphone to Pastor Anger.
And I might,
Do you want to use your?
I might have,
Okay.
do I have my own? Can I just use, oh yes, okay. So we will follow the prayer that all congregations across the ELCA are using as they begin their annual meetings, remembering that we are part of that larger church. So it's on the second page of your annual report. Recognizing that our faith is a living, busy, active, and mighty thing, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you, each of you. And also with you. Teach us to love you with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Descend on our hearts that we may love others in the ways Jesus loves us. Empower us to be enthusiastic in pursuing your vision for our congregation. Move us to engage issues in our community in Christ-like ways and to pursue deep and authentic relationships with those with whom we serve and partner. Strengthen us to face the barriers we encounter in doing your work, learning to work with others amid disagreement. Give us the ability to adapt to the cultural, economic, and social changes that occur in the neighborhoods we serve. Guide us to be a healthy congregation that learns from its failures as well as its successes and offers wisdom to others. As we strive to become the church that we proclaim to be, raise up leaders who focus on the gospel of freedom, forgiveness, and reconciliation, as given to us through God's indescribable act of love in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Renew us daily in our baptism, that we may discover vitality in our relationships with you, each other, and those we serve in the world. Amen.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm just going to start with a quick reminder. We have a quorum of 60, which we've met for today's meeting. And that voting today is going to be taken by voice vote. If necessary, we have some ballots if that's required later on. Simple majority will pass all of the motions that are presented today. And just a real quick reminder, by the way, I'm Bill Hoekstra. I'm the congregational president of Bethel Lutheran, and so I'm your guide here today. For voting eligibility, you just need to be someone who's confirmed and an active standing member of the congregation who's been participating and has benevolences on record. I'm going to start with, pardon? Yep, there we go. We need approval of the agenda. The agenda should be a generic-ish kind of agenda in the annual report that you have. The one up here is very similar. So I will take a motion to accept the agenda as, okay, Pat has the first, and then Don is seconding the agenda approval. And then in the report also, there's the minutes from the 2022 annual meeting that was held January of last year. So I'll give you a minute or two to review those minutes, and then I would certainly entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last annual meeting. Okay, Pat, are you? Okay. Pat Staley moves to accept the minutes. Is there a second? Okay. Okay, there we go. Jan, yeah, Lois, Stratmon. Okay. So what I'd like to do is just give a real brief overview for the reports of this last year. I know this is a hard screen to look at, and I kind of did that on purpose. I'm not a fan of PowerPoints that are super dense. And by the way, I'm not a professional PowerPoint putter together. However, I wanted to just take a few moments and talk about a lot of the places we've been and the places we've touched as a church this last year. It's been a really busy year in a lot of really excellent ways. These are some of the things that we've done. This is not an inclusive list, but I wanted to just touch on many of the different ministries, and my apologies if I miss something that I didn't include on this list. Of course, we've called Pastor Ben Shorey, and then we were able to secure Christy Larson as a full-time youth minister at our church, which is huge for our congregation to have a fleshed-out ministerial staff now. We initiated the Nourishing Vocation Project, which is helping guide us to be more focused as a church, and us as Christians in this church to be more centered in what it means to be Christian and Christ-like. We've completed phase 2 of the organ renewal. We have another phase to go, but it's sounding much better, and there's far better sound, I'm told, to be expected from the organ as this completes. Attendance has been increasing. You'll notice that there is, I think it's weekly attendance, and then there's some other metrics that are earlier in the report. And we are on a steady growth forward coming out of pandemic. So that's been just really exciting for this church. Also, engagement in the nursery and in the youth programs has been growing, if not steady, which is fantastic. We've been working together with other area churches for VBS and other programs, which has been a lot of fun. Congregational life has been super busy with some really, Bethel garage sale, I guess, goes without needing to be said. Alleluia 5K, I think it was the second year this last year, correct? And so even though there's a bit of snow in the air, that was a great experience. Congregational meals that we've had have been amazing. New member welcoming has been going on. We've had a great thing about caring for our Earth, the Bike and Walk to Earth, or Bike and Walk to Church initiative, which was a lot of fun. We've adopted a land use agreement. We've been working to strengthen Bethel's stance to be an inclusive and safe place for everybody. Mission and Justice has been extremely busy providing us with a lot of great educational programs in between services, which has been fantastic. Also on immigration issues that impact our country. We've had a highly impactful Christian care team that has drawn a lot of really needed focus to how we care and use our earth. Despite 15 to 20% estimated increases in utilities, things that we don't have a lot of control of as a church, Blair and others in our church have been very diligent in trying to adjust how we use this facility as effectively and as efficiently and smartly as we can. As I mentioned a little earlier, we've continued to experience increased in worship attendance and participation. Our endowment fund has been supercharged to about $500,000 now, which everybody I think has been aware of, but that's a really big change, something that's huge for our church to experience. We've had successful beyond the budget programming that's made a large impact in our community. And benevolence continues to be very, very strong, not just in dollars, but also in amount of hours contributed by our members. So these are things that I think we really need to be proud of this last year. Feel free to give yourselves a round of applause. So I'm going to turn it over to Barb, I think, and so she's going to give a brief overview of finances from 2023, probably a little briefer than last week, and then also just a look ahead to 2024 so that we know exactly what we're voting on here today. Oh yeah, just press the, make sure it turns green.
Okay, all right. Okay, couple of things first. Per our Constitution, annually, we need to have an audit performed on our financial records and procedures. And so I need 2 volunteers who would be willing to do that. It's not a huge time-consuming job. You work with Caroline Smith, and we have guidelines on the things that you need to take a look at. But we'd really appreciate if we could get a couple of members who would be willing to do that for us. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you'd contact me or Caroline and let her know as soon as possible. The other thing is that the giving reports will be going out this week. You can watch for those. They are going via email. And so it's 1 per household. So if it doesn't show up on your email, maybe check your spouse's email and see if it's there. But those will be going out this week. Again, any questions should be directed to Caroline Smith, the financial person in our office. And finally, the results of the 2023 budget, and that's on, I think, page 34 of your booklets. But just an overview, total revenues were $931,000. This was 3.5% over the previous year, and as many of you heard, we did come up a little bit short because expenses exceeded income by $17,000. The positive thing about that is that we have a generous operating reserve fund that we can use in situations like this. So we are very blessed to have that kind of a backup plan. But we were short by $17,000 this year. Looking forward to 2024, the budget amount is for revenues is $969,250, 4% higher than what was realized in 2023. You can see by the expenses and the variances there, this 969 will cover many aspects of our church. And so we really believe with the church council, various budget managers, that this is a true goal that we should aim for. It will actually come out to be about $78,800 per month. So if you follow the little statements that appear in the bulletins, you can kind of keep track of where we're at. But you will be hearing a lot from us to keep you informed. Are there any questions? Okay.
Okay, there we go. So what I would entertain with the information that you have in your handout there in the annual report, a motion from the floor to accept the 2024 budget as it stands. What we'll do is we'll entertain a motion to accept it. If there's a second, We'll move forward, and then we'll have some discussion. Hey, Bo? Okay, there's a move to accept. Is there a second? Okay, Evie? Is there any discussion on the budget, 2024 budget proposed? Yes, Don.
My question is on the benevolence. I know we're
Yes.
always hung up on how much we give away. And is that a true dollar number, or is that also our food drive? And I mean, is that everything we do?
Do you want to address that?
The benevolences are listed on page 38, and they include everything I could find. So I believe it is accurate. You'll notice that some of it comes from the general operating budget, so we all participate in those benevolences. And then we have all of the special offerings for the holy days, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And then in addition to that, we do handle a lot of funds that go through our church and on to other places. And so all of that added together is the almost $184,000, which is 20% of our budget and is the same as previous year.
Okay, thank you for the question. Carol? I think we have one question here, too.
I spoke last week. I think I can be heard. I spoke
Just for the folks that,
last week about not having any longer the position of communication manager. And I'm really sorry to see this eliminated. I don't know where it comes in the budget, administration, but this is very vital to keep the congregation connected and to reach out to others. And people spoke in approval of it last week that we shouldn't cut it, that they had new members and they were connecting by learning about people in the church through the communication each week. I know it's going to be done by other people, but I don't see pictures probably being taken like they have been. And a picture is worth 1,000 words each week. So I'm very sorry that this position has been eliminated, and I hope that there is some way we can squeeze something in there, but I don't know where it comes in the budget. Under administration? I don't know. But I'm very sorry this has been done.
Thank you. And I just want to provide a little bit of background to that, because that's a really good point. Communication is critical, and that's something that Church Council takes very seriously. And at the same time, with the giving patterns over the last year, we've needed to be really clear and very thoughtful about how we are stewards of the benevolences coming into the church. And one of the areas, unfortunately, that we needed to look at is that as an official position. I want to be clear, though, that the position, or I'm sorry, the duties aren't disappearing. It's just who's doing it, it's changing. So we're reorganizing a little bit within the administrative staff to cover those jobs. But one of the hard choices we had to make as we started into this previous year with a deficit that was starting to accumulate at a alarming rate for us as finance and as well as council keeping an eye on that. Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Nelson. I happen to be a member of the board for Community Action Center, and I also am involved, as many as you are, on Habitat. So thank you to the congregation for your generosity. This is incredible. The other thing would be a point of order slightly, and that is there's a difference in Robert's Rules of Order between approval and acceptance. I think that this is an approval motion coming up. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Oh, yes. You got it. Okay.
Mary Ann Call. I've had the opportunity to volunteer at the front desk to allow Janice the time to do some other tasks on Tuesday morning. And it's clear to me that without Janice or someone at that desk, we are going to be looking like we don't care. I worry about people walking in the door needing our support and service, both members and non-members, and no one's there to say, hi, how can I help you? I can only do that on Tuesday mornings. I can't do it the whole time, but I would encourage people to consider volunteering for that position. It's painless.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm Paula Matheson, and Bill, I already talked to Bill about this, but I could not agree more. I've walked into churches where I've had to leave announcements or things, and I can't find even who I'm supposed to talk to. I can't find a front desk. The front desk often provides a buffer for office managers so they can get work done and don't have to be interrupted constantly. I think that we added that piece because we were so concerned about hospitality being extended carefully and well, and there are ways that we can make sure that happens. But I want to add my agreement with Mary Ann to that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Oh, yeah. No.
Thank you. I'm distressed to look at the actuals and I'm sorry, the amount that we missed the budget by, the proposal by, and seeing that the areas that I think are really important, youth and worship and music, children's ministry and youth ministry, congregational life, all budgeted less than they are now. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm reading it wrong. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think those are areas that we can slough off. Mm-hmm. That's the dynamics of the congregation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think as I sit on both the Finance Committee as well as obviously Church Council, and for us as people who are trying to be very thoughtful and very strategic about how to essentially operate the church from an operational viewpoint, as well as to encourage growth and to encourage the areas of our church where we do so well. It's a real challenge for us, especially this last year. There were some head-scratching moments for us when benevolences from the congregation seemed to flux a little bit, and we weren't quite sure what that was, and so the best we can do at those moments is to try to respond as thoughtfully as we can. And I also want to just be just to remind the congregation that we have an enormous amount of power and influence amongst ourselves and within the community, and it really does take all of us to be a part of that. And I think if we can all chip in with our hours, with our treasures, with our time, a lot of these things I see over the years have been easily accomplishable by our church. And so I think this is maybe just a reminder to us that it matters to be thoughtful about how we support the church, so that the church as an organization can also be planful and anticipate and feel able to essentially make the bills when we need to make the bills. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, sometimes we lose the story in the numbers. With the addition of an associate pastor, in some ways you can think about a staff, we have a whole new staff person that is increasing investment in children and youth ministry. Pastor Ben does these phenomenal Limitless chapels, and then he's shepherding 7th and 8th grade confirmation this year. So sometimes these might be, and then having a full-time youth director, having Christy Larson secured, that is, again, in some ways, these might be, and I feel like we always as staff feel supported that we will, if we need more resources, we will find it. So, and Barb has been very careful about that, but when you see those decreases there, we're trying to tighten our belts as much as possible, but to think about the investment of staff in a person, that in some ways an increase in personnel has been, is a way of investing in worship, investing, even Pastor Ben doing those things has freed me up to be more intentional with worship. And so you could see the worship budget sort of going up when you're telling the story that way. These are always hard decisions, but I think one piece that, in sort of my advisory capacity to finance and council, would be sometimes thinking about right-sizing our staff. Be aware that Bethel enjoys one of the largest staffs of a congregation our size, even with this change in our structure. And I'm mindful of that. I don't think, like every congregation is different, but that that we will really want to be good stewards so that we have that amazing benevolence or use of all those tools. And so being mindful of that. One other thing, when you look at congregations our size, they, and right-sizing our staff with the right tools is that they've always had, or most congregations our size, everyone I looked at has 2 pastors, but then, and those are sort of, we're jack of all trades and can go different ways. And so I do think as much as we will miss Janice's skill set, and that there will be, there are ways to creatively cover the communication needs of the congregation. And a last point would be historically, I think that the communications position, in, if I have my history right, was created during the pandemic. And so it is one of our more recent pieces. And so it's that was just mindful in terms of our core staffing needs and trying to be creative when we're trying to honor the giving patterns that we saw.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Lee, could you use that microphone just so everyone can hear you? Thank you.
Lee Runsummer from the Finance Committee. I just wanted to second Noel's comment here that we really don't want to cut back anything on the youth programs, and believe me, we're not. If you just look at page 36 of the book, we have special reserves that have actually built up that we can draw on to, that's in addition to what we have in the budget. And those reserves have built up quite a bit because during COVID, we weren't able to do all of the programming for the youth, the trips, and so on. So we just have quite a healthy buildup in reserves that we can draw on. And specifically, script earnings, many of you contribute to the script program, and we have a reserve built up there of 27,000 that has built up over the last several years. So Christy, if you're in the audience, get going and spend some of this money on more youth programs and more outreach to our other friends of our youth. So that's my comment on that. There's no lack of funds to spend on youth programs, Noel, I assure you.
Thank you. Lee is one of our finance committee members. So. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Lois Carey. I just wanted to put in a quick word about the Good Samaritan Fund. I've been filling in some when Mimi is unable to be in the office, and it's been such an eye-opener to me, and I just want you guys all to know how busy it is to keep people supplied with their needs from the Good Samaritan Fund. At the present time, we give out $25 gas cards to Quick Trip, and they get a maximum of 3 per year, each individual. And then some of the folks are eligible to receive an Aldi's food card. But I just want you to know the garage sale folks have funded that very generously, but we go through a lot of them, and the stories are real. So if that's something that touches your heart, please designate some money to the Good Samaritan Fund.
Thank you, Lois.
I'm Dot Swanson, and I'd like to reiterate what Lee said about the reserve fund. So why can't some of that reserve fund be used to pay Janice's salary so we can keep her at that front desk? It's very vital to have her here, I believe. Yeah. She's made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the question is, like, can't we just move money around to do that? Do you want to address that?
Thanks. It is true. We have a lot of money in our restricted funds, we call them. They're monies that are given for a specific purpose, and we can't just spend them on, other things within the budget. A lot of the reserve is in our operating reserve fund, and that is held for the purpose of emergency spending. And as I mentioned, we used that this year. So there's funds there. There's also in that list of restricted funds that's in your booklet, that's where we keep the capital reserve. And if you'll notice, this year we not only spent what we added, we spent a little more. Well, you can't go down that path too long. And so these are all funds that are restricted for a particular purpose and really can't be used unless somebody wants to give and designate it for communications.
Much more articulate than I could have said. So just to be clear, though, restricted funds means someone said, I'd want this money to go to this purpose, and it would be wrong for the church to then say, thanks, we're going to put it for this other purpose instead.
Just to follow up on two things. One, about the communications position. I do hear concern and some anxiety. I hear that loud and clear, and I have that concern too. I also trust the people who made the decision. You're in the room talking about it week after week. I think what some of the anxiety is coming from is because we don't know what the plan is and who is going to be doing the communication. I worry that it's just going to be taken care of by pastors, our highest paid people, well-deserved, but that's not a task that should just default to them. And so, while you don't have to answer it today, I think at some point, if we could hear what the plan is, and I heard you say you're kind of reorganizing and you're looking at other solutions to that. So if we could learn more about what that plan is at some point. And then I just wanted to follow up with Don's point of, does this packet capture all of the benevolence? There's no way that a document can, because this congregation is really generous in the community. And so I just want to say, I'm the director with Habitat, so I can't help but mention Habitat. But the line in there that 7,000 was given to Habitat, that's what came through here. Actually, there's about 30,000 over last year that came from Bethel members to Habitat for Humanity. So, and that's to Community Action Center, to Health Finder, all the great things that just simply won't be captured in this booklet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly, because the rough plan, and we want to live into it to see how it works, but was communicated when we had made the decision last year. But I am taking over the the monthly newsletter. I sort of did that in the transition when Chelsea first stepped down and before we had Jesse, and have shepherded it when Janice needed a break, and worked closely with Janice. So I feel really comfortable there. And then Pastor Ben, who had a communications major undergrad, is going to be shepherding the midweek email. Again, I hear concerns about our time. I think that there has to be that creative thinking. When I look at similarly sized congregations, there are not always communications directors, but there's always two pastors. And so I think that it is appropriate for us to take on those duties because our trying to be really mindful and good stewards of the budget, not running a deficit. We're really grateful for the capital reserve, but not making that our plan.
Thank you. Really good comments. Any other discussion before we move to a vote?
Just real quick, I think all we are hearing, the big key is that having somebody at that front desk, I mean, that's where all the communication really happens. People come in the door, I come in here very, very often, and having somebody at that front desk, I think every single day, because Mimi, if you come in and you have to always get Mimi off her job, it's a bummer. So I just applaud Marianne Call and Lois, and they do it. It's really the real key, that welcoming person. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
I'll make this quick, and it's an editorial, but we're talking about who's covering what and how they're covering it and so forth. And for who's ever doing it, I just urge you to be considerate of the fact that there are people in this congregation or people who may be interested in this congregation who either don't have email or don't have the capability to use email or can't use a computer. And so keep that in mind when you're talking about blanket communication.
Thank you. I don't have to exercise today.
Good morning, Andrew Jorgensen, and I also have the privilege of being on the Finance Committee. I just wanted to briefly mention that if we just look back at the conversation we were having here last year, we were taking votes on how to distribute and how to allocate a surplus. We had $20,000 that we had discussion around allocating. And I think it's just a moment for us to pause and reflect on the fact that today we're looking at a deficit and how we as a congregation process that and consider the year moving forward, because we have wonderful people here that are serving this community at large. And as a finance committee, it's very difficult to try to look at those numbers and try to continue to shepherd the best way forward. But I guess my prayer and hope is that next year we're having a conversation about how to divvy up surplus.
Thank you. Anyone else over here real quick before that? Okay. Yep, I think we got that. So we are ready to have a vote on the approval. Thank you. Now you have me second guessing myself. The approval of the 2024 budget. All those in favor of approving the 2024 budget as has been presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, excellent. Budget has been approved. I did neglect to vote for an approval of the reports that are in the thing, so I'm going to just backtrack one step here and can I have a motion to adopt the reports as they are stated in the report, of the committees and of the staff. Okay, Marianne? Okay. Oh, Carol is the second. Okay. All those in favor of approving the reports? Say aye. Okay. Carol. Nice. Lisney, thank you. Okay, thank you. So before we move to the new officers, we have several great officers that will be nominated today for your approval. I wanted to just take a few moments and thank our outgoing officers. And so I'll just have them briefly stand. I know they were very excited about being able to do this. But so Phyllis Larson, who served as our personnel chair. Chris Bussman. Yeah, thank you. Ghost microphones. Chris Bussman, who was our member at large that obviously served in the kitchen these past 3 years. Yeah. And Petter, where's Petter? There he is in the very back. Petter Jofen, who was our worship and arts liaison. And I just want to say personally, it's been a pleasure serving with all of you guys. All three of you individuals were amazing contributors, worked through some very difficult times. The kitchen has been elevated to some degree with many different things. That's not to disparage previous years, but you have put your own personal touch on things, which I think has been warmly welcomed. Phyllis has done an enormous job these past 3 years, and everything that you've contributed has been powerful for this church. And Petter, who has helped to contribute to the aesthetic and the ability for us to focus worship in terms of our senses and how things come together that way for us. In addition to that, the consultation the three of you provided has been invaluable to our council. So thank you again. And once again, I want to also thank the church staff and you as Bethel members and the rest of our sitting council who will remain on council this year. Everybody is rowing this boat strongly and confidently. So thank you for everything that you've done. So we'll move to the ballot for this year. We have 3 positions, and the nominees are Connie Nelson is nominated for the personnel position. Eric Lundeen, who's unfortunately not able to be here today, is nominated to step into Petter's position for worship and arts. And Evie Bauer is kind of a first for us as our youth representative at large. Normally that's a 3-year position. I don't think she was interested in doing 3 years with our church. But she will be filling a 1-year position for our council. We have 2 positions open. Actually, could everyone who's here just stand briefly so we can see who you are? There's Connie and then Evie up here. And Eric is not here today. And then for our endowment committee, we have 2 positions that are nominated. Mari Aylin will be nominated for a continuing position. Is she here today? She's out there. Oh, she's at the table out there. There we go. So she's waving at you. And then Rose Turnacliffe is a nominee for stepping onto the council. We do have a position, 2 positions that are open and that I would entertain a nomination from the floor. One is for a nomination committee, which is a pretty straightforward position that really only kicks in towards the end of the calendar year, where someone from the membership helps council to identify people that would be good nominees for the positions that are open this next annual meeting. It's a very helpful process. So I will accept nominations from the floor for that, as well as for the Cannon River Conference representatives. That is, I think, in February, happening in Cannon Falls, and that's an afternoon. But we would have space for 2 nominees that I would welcome a nomination from the floor. There's the annual meeting of the Southeastern ELCA Synod. The nominees for that are Scott and Elga Broughton. Sounds a lot like the Emmys here, doesn't it? But they have been nominated to represent our church. And the Lutheran Home of the Cannon Valley NRC representatives, Bob Thacker, has agreed to be a nominee for that one, that position. And there's one open for that as well. So before we move to voting, are there any nominations from the floor for the nominating committee? The Cannon River Conference representative, or the Lutheran Home of Cannon Valley, or for any other position? We would accept nominations from the floor for any of these positions in addition to the ones there. Yes, Blair. Okay, thank you, Blair. So Blair has volunteered to help with Bob Thacker's representation. Any other nominations from the floor? Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'm sorry, could you say your first name? Okay, Norm Lombach. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, any other nominations from the floor?
Nominate Mary to go with so that we have two. It'll be fun.
Okay. Yes, that's right. That's in Cannon Falls. Yeah. Should be a fun time. So, okay.
I don't know if it's
All
in
right.
Cannon Falls.
Okay, so as they do you want me to read through, or does everybody have a handle? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just accept a proposed adoption. Oh, did I say 2025? Oh, yep. I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. So the screen up here says 2025. It should say 2024. Can I get any, yeah, pardon? Yeah, we don't have any, anybody who's for the nominating committee. Is there anyone from the floor that would be willing to step into that position? Okay, well, we will work on that position. I think we were in this position last year too. All right. Is there any, I just blanked on the term for adopting this as our ballot. Blanket motion, thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt this as the... Okay, there's a motion from the back. So Jean, thank you. Okay, is there a second? Okay, I have a second up here. All those in favor of adopting the ballot as listed and with the nominees from the floor, including the 2025 being changed to 2024. Can I have a vote with a yay? All those in favor? Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. The ballot is adopted. Thank you. I think that concludes our meeting. Maybe what I'll do is just say kind of personally that Bethel is continues to be a thriving church. There's so much happening in this church. It's really opened my eyes to how busy this church is once I joined council. I had no idea how busy things were until I became involved. And so our growth and outreach and mission really depend on all of our engagement. And I want everybody to really deeply consider becoming involved somehow with our church. To continue to be kind and curious about each other, accepting of each other, and to volunteer in any way that you're able. I think we've talked today about a lot of the areas that we need assistance with, and also just continuing volunteerism, and to give generously and boldly to the mission that our church serves in the community. So thank you. We are the limitations to what our church is capable of. So with that, I will close in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this engaged and generous congregation. Please lead us into this year of being bold representatives of your kingdom in our community and in the world. Please guide us and help us to make decisions that advance your love and generosity for the world. In your name we pray. Amen. I'll entertain a motion to close the session. Don? And Pat seconded. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Meeting is adjourned. Yeah.